Lovely listeners and viewers, you are back down the red rabbit hole and we have missed you. I hope you've missed us too, but now you're going to get as much as you can handle of us. So I am one of your co-hosts. I am best-selling thriller author Envy
Are we doing a
Peacock.
marathon? Is that what this is? Is this like a
No,
live marathon
I,
broadcast?
I can't do that.
We're not going to give them that much of us, are we?
No,
That'd
we're
be
not going to give us
too much
that
for
much.
anyone.
And especially for poor Harriet. So Harriet Fox is our guest. Lisa's been out with her sack again, haven't you, Lisa?
I have, yeah, yeah. I went to the Pink Palace and kidnapped Harriet and then dragged her back down to the dark, dark rabbit hole.
She seems quite happy though. Harriet, how are you feeling?
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much. Yes, I like a bit of dark, dark rabbit holes.
Don't we all?
We like pink, so it's a good mix, really. I think the
It's a
pink
good
and the
mix.
dark, dark rabbit
Yeah.
hole's got to work well together.
Definitely.
Yeah, you were telling us about your room, Harriet, before we started recording.
I was. So what you can't see because it's next to me is this wall here in front of me is covered in the front pages of the Illustrated Police News from 1888. So it's all pictures, gruesome pictures of the Jack the Ripper murder victims, which is cancelling out the pink a little bit.
Yes, and Jack the Ripper seems to be our third host for the Red Rabbit Hole because he's on so often, but we do love it.
He's here a lot, isn't he?
He is, whoever he may have been.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been down a few times, hasn't he?
So, Harriet,
I mean,
all this gruesome research you've done for your book, The Women in the Shadows, haven't you?
Yes, I have indeed my workbook here, The Women in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Which is I call it Jack the Ripper adjacent rather than rather than a straight Jack the Ripper novel. So yeah, it's slightly different, bit of a feminist take on the whole thing.
Well, we're all right with that, aren't we, Lisa?
pink, feminist, murder. It's all the things I like best. It's literally all the things I like best in life.
So,
absolutely.
Harriet, tell us a little bit about the book. What's it all about? I mean, obviously, it's like you said, Jack the Ripper adjacent, but what's it? What's Jack the Ripper adjacent to?
So it is. I'm sure that you obviously know quite a lot about Jack the Ripper. And one of the things that everyone is interested in about Jack the Ripper is that he stopped killing. So he did however many murders, opinion is divided, in 1888, and then he stopped killing. There were no more after that. And there are gazillions of theories as to why he stopped killing. For example, that he was incarcerated in an insane asylum, or there's a theory that he went to America. There's loads of theories. Right down the bottom of the list of theories, like number 100 on the list, is that the women who lived in Whitechapel at the time teamed up and took him out. And that is my story, basically. I don't think it's based on any sort of historical fact other than the fact that the women who were living in that area at the time were really, really scared and they were arming themselves. They had knives like tucked in their stockings and that kind of thing. So kind of a little bit rooted in fact, but that's good enough for me.
Excellent. So we're going to talk. So in this first episode, we're going to talk about the women of Whitechapel. Because it was a tough time, wasn't it? I mean, let's be honest. Women don't exactly get an easy ride today, but it was a tough time back in Whitechapel in the 1880s.
It was a terrible time. I think to be both a woman and a man, actually, it was a terrible time, but it was particularly hard to be a woman because their whole being, their whole lives depended on men. And if that man who was propping them up, supporting them financially, or, just the fact of having a man there stopped you being classed as a prostitute, basically. If anything happened to those men, if they died or if they got injured or if they just left you or whatever, then that was it. Your whole life would fall apart because women earned money. They went out and worked and they earned money, but they didn't earn enough to keep them it was like pin money, you know, that kind of, it wasn't enough. You couldn't support yourself on the money that a woman could make. And women just weren't paid enough to support themselves. So they needed that man to help them. And if the man wasn't there, then that was it. It was, you know, they were all like one accident or one argument away from total deprivation and their whole lives collapsing.
Well, we all know that feeling, don't we, Lisa? One argument away from ruination.
One or two. We're all only a couple of paychecks, aren't we, from potentially being homeless? So yeah, we're not. It's still balanced on a bit of a knife edge, but maybe it's a little less us having to rely on men quite so much, but still not getting paid the same rates, are we?
Absolutely. We're past, aren't we, the day in the year where women stop earning money? Like I think it was last weekend, the day where women stop earning relatively to men. So yeah, I mean, it's the same, but different.
Yeah. I don't know which time I'd choose, actually. The thought of arming myself and potentially taking someone out and getting away with it feels more exciting than
it does, doesn't it?
than living in 2025.
There's no CSI there to capture you, and you know.
No, there was nothing of that. The police were so new. The police had only been around really for about 50 years in the proper form of the Met. So they were so brand new. They were still learning, really, and crime investigations and detectives were new, and it was all new. Nobody really knew what they were doing.
And I don't think there was any kind of understanding about psychopathy or anything along those lines, because a lot of them probably didn't even believe it was happening. You know, it was like, no, this is not related. And you know what the brain's like. As soon as it latches onto one theory, that's it. Everything else is gone. So you get one person in power that's like, no, this could never happen. So it's not happening. And nothing's getting looked at, or nothing's getting, you know.
And there was no sort of joined up, you know, now you could put a murder into the National Police computer and it would bring up all the other murders that were similar or in any sort of way. But there was no, like, they didn't even make connections between murders like 2 streets away from each other. So yeah, it was very disjointed. But you know, like I say, they were just learning. They didn't really know what they were doing.
There was a lot of murders of women, especially in Whitechapel around that time. I mean, there's a ton of them that could have been Jack the Ripper, as you kind of alluded to when you kind of introduced the book, that, you know, that there's the 5 canonical, which we discovered what canonical actually means, didn't we, Lisa? We were discussing between
you
us.
and your canonicals.
We had to look
at
the word
about your canonicals.
Yeah, it's got a good, nice mouthfeel, hasn't it? Canonical. Like monocle.
I think you ought to do, you know that film, The Christmas Chronicles? You ought to do the Christmas Canonicals.
5 Christmases in a row.
Yes, and there was the Thames Torso murders.
Yes,
like that. It was just the same year, and just a bit earlier in the year, which is really annoying because I'd quite like to write about them, but now it's before. Like, I couldn't really write a sequel now about that because it happened before the Whitechapel murders.
You could do a prequel.
I could do a prequel.
Did you know, Harriet, that the Thames Torso bits, I don't want to be too graphic, but the bits were actually allegedly thrown next to Mary Shelley's residence. So there was almost a Frankenstein. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because if you think about it, they're body bits, aren't they? So what if someone was trying to create their own Frankenstein's monster? Yeah, and was like getting really
Red Frankenstein thought this is a good idea.
Yeah. Let's make my own woman. And you know, and he was obviously not doing very well and kept throwing the bits at Mary Shelley's in disgust. I don't know, but yeah, that was one of the things.
Mary Shelley was an author who just took her research to a really deep level.
Maybe
we should have her down the rabbit hole, actually, to tell us all
about
it.
I think she was sadly had long gone by 1888, Mary, but you never know. The ghost of Mary Shelley.
Yeah. Tried to reform herself. Maybe she was trying to rebuild herself.
Like create her own body.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it wrote itself, this story. And it could be called The Ghost of Mary Shelley. I know, we've got a gothic supernatural horror
Love the
going on here.
title.
I know, the Ghost of Mary Shelley. This is great. Harriet, write it down for the love of God before we forget it.
Now I feel like there is a reason I'm here.
You see?
Yeah.
Whenever there's a Jack the Ripper episode, I'm like, oh, Nikki, all right, I'll just hand over to you. Because it's not even like, even if I went and did some research, I could never have done the research to the depth to which Nikki has done the research. So I'd still be scratching the surface. And she'd probably go, no, Lisa. It's not that one. It's not them. It's not that. She'd correct me. So there you go. Story ideas. That's what I'm good for.
That's excellent. I'm taking it.
Yeah. There was a lot of other murders as well, though. There was Martha Tabram, wasn't there? That everyone's,
Yes.
kind of just, I suppose, divided upon whether she was one of the earlier ones. And there was another lady called Emma something.
Yes.
I could never remember the surname. She was attacked and just left in the gutter, but she survived and went to hospital, but she died in hospital. But she said it was 2 soldiers that attacked her. Yes. She said it was 2 men.
I think maybe even more than 2 men. Was it? Anyway, Martha, I do think, was a Ripper victim, and my book starts with Martha because it was quite a good way into the story, and also because I did a little bit of research on her, and she sounded really nice and really, like,
in what way?
She just sounded really fun, and like had been around the block. You know, when you read about somebody, you think, I mean, all of them were, apart from Kelly, the final one, all of them were like well into their 40s and they were all like they'd lived, and I felt when I read about Martha, I thought, yeah, I'd quite like to have a drink with her. She sounds like a bit of a hoot. And she was out on the night she died, she was out boozing with her friend who was called Pearly Pole, which I think is the best name of anyone, like Pearly Pole. So yeah, I'd like to go and hang out with Martha and Pearly Pole, have a drink.
See, now I can't get the image from Mary Poppins of the Pearly Kings out of my head, with them doing
That's how I picture,
yeah.
I don't know, because that's an East End thing, isn't it?
Buttons
I don't know
pearls.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know why she was called Pearly. I had to change her name, though, in the book. I had to call her Pearly Peg, because there's too many people called Polly, and it was all getting confusing, so I had to change her name.
Oh. So you think Martha was the first one, or?
I think, yes. That's what I think. But I know there's a lot of theories. I think you could, like Lisa, you said you only scratched the surface. I feel like I've only scratched the surface of Ripper research, and I've been like living it for a year. But there's just so much. But I definitely think Martha was a victim. The MO was really similar, and it just really fits to me. But I could be wrong.
But
We'll never know.
I have a horrible feeling, though. I mean, at the time, women were getting killed left and right anyway. So there was probably a lot of bodies that were piling up that weren't even reported on, or that we don't even have details for.
I think so. I think
to look back and say, well, that could be the first one, or that could be one of the, perhaps the canonical 20 or something. We just don't know.
Totally. I think the only thing that distinguishes them is just how brutal it was. Like Martha was stabbed 39 times, and I think even the police were shocked by how brutal it was in a place where women were being brutally hurt. Often that was enough for the police to go, ooh, this is a bit out of the ordinary. So I think the brutality of it sort of makes it stand out, but it's very grim.
Yeah. Did she have anything taken? Like body parts or jewelry or anything like that? No.
Just it was very quick. It's interesting. I don't know if you've been to Whitechapel, and obviously that area was really heavily bombed during the war. So there's not much left of the places where the women were killed. But where Martha was killed, you can walk down that little side street. It's a tiny little side street. You take it's a cut through for all the delivery drivers. So when you're down there, you have to like swerve all the motorbikes. But so it's all the cobbles are there, and it feels kind of how it would have felt then, except for not nearly. I'm really obsessed with how dark it would have been, and it's dark now, but how dark it would have been then is extraordinary. And so it's quite atmospheric. It's, if you go and walk down there, you can sort of get a feeling of how frightening it would have, like, it would be frightening to walk down there in the dark now, I think, and hear footsteps behind you, let alone that autumn.
But he was, as a killer, he was pretty out there. You know, like he was killing on streets that other
Yeah.
people. It wasn't like it was dead at that time. You know, there was people even
It was
at
really
like
people
3 a.m.
around.
People were still milling about,
Yeah.
and especially if it was that dark. I mean, his eyesight must have been amazing for him to see. You know, real predatory eyes. You know, to be able to
Yeah.
see. And now I've got the idea of the Predator being Jack the Ripper in my. You know, that's why the
Yes.
trophies were taken.
Yeah. It's extraordinary, and I think the darkness is really part of the story almost in itself, because it was so dark, and so, like, it would have hidden any blood, it would have hidden, I don't know how much, like, some of the women were asleep or like slumped down, and maybe he just tripped over them. I don't know, you know, it's hard to know how he came across, or maybe he'd followed them, saw that they were vulnerable. I don't know, but yeah, the darkness is really, and it was a really awful summer and autumn. It was like one of the rainiest summers, and there was cartoons in the papers of people like sailing little boats down Ludgate Circus, and so it was really wet. So people with hoods up and hats on, and you know, it just feels really claustrophobic and really hard to see anything.
I kind of get that feeling sometimes, just when winter comes, you know, when suddenly it gets dark and then everyone's wearing dark clothes and everyone's got hats up and like hoods up or hats on and things like that. And it does suddenly, even now with, like you say, street lighting and stuff, it becomes a bit like, oh, I can't really tell who people are anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's quite an
Yeah.
easy time to disguise yourself and get away with things.
Yes, and people
Whereas in
sort
the
of
summer,
loom
if you
out
walk
of
around with a
shadows.
hood up, yeah,
Yeah, you look a bit weird.
So yeah, I wouldn't want to be walking around Whitechapel in the dark.
I mean, even with street lights nowadays, it's still quite dark. I don't want to go out at night now, you know, let alone back then. They must have really wanted that drink or that night out for them to venture out into the cold dark.
Yeah, it's Marianne Nichols, Polly Nichols. She bumped into a friend before she died, and the friend had been at the docks because there was a big docks fire, like one of the warehouses was on fire that night. And so everyone would go and gather when there was a big fire at the docks or wherever. Everyone would go and gather by the fire. Yeah, I think partly to be warm and partly because it was light. So you could just go and hang out with your friends and you knew you could see who they were. Like everyone just sort of sat around and chatted, which is really strange. But I think it's a really good illustration of how gloomy and dark and cold it was. And you could just go and, oh, there's a fire. Let's go down there, hang out.
I also wonder if, was it almost cheaper or was it better to go to the tavern where maybe they'd have a fire on, and might be cheaper to buy a drink or get someone else to buy you a drink if you actually haven't got anywhere else to go, or if you have but you can't heat it, you can't warm it, you can't like you can't light anything or do anything in your home because you haven't got anything there. So let's go hang out at the tavern.
Very probably much nicer. And also I think a lot of the doss houses weren't open, like you couldn't go before a certain time, so you had to, and then you were turfed out in the morning.
Find something to do, while you're waiting.
Yeah.
I just found a picture. I was trying to do some research while you were talking. There's actually a mortuary photo of Martha Tabram.
Oh, yes.
Which always surprises me that when there's photography.
That's because they didn't know who she was, so they wanted it in the papers so that they could identify her, which is really sad.
But she was married, it says here.
Yeah, well, but they were quite fluid. Like
marriage is fluid.
He was one of the husbands. She'd gone the one argument away from being entirely alone.
No. Yeah, she was.
She wasn't far off.
Martha Tabram, I think her first husband was called Henry Tabram. I think that's right. And then, but he was gone. She broken up with him. But then she had this other man called William Turner, and she was living with him up until just before she was murdered, I think. And then so she just took his name. Like, that's how people did it. Like, they didn't get divorced officially or remarry officially. They were like, yeah, we're married now. So she called herself Turner, and but it was Henry, her first husband, that identified her in the end. But
and there's some talk of a pair of soldiers in this. They met two soldiers. So it's themed by Anne Morris, and then they met two soldiers, a corporal and a private, and were more than happy for the men to buy them drinks. So again, yeah, they've gone somewhere warm, and they've got someone to buy them some drinks. They're having a nice time.
Having a lovely time.
Oh, is it the White Swan? Yeah.
And then they left with the soldiers, and then split up, and that was that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, I suppose it depends on whether she was a Ripper victim, because the problem with putting murders together can be that if you put the wrong murders in, then it leads you down the wrong path for the killer. Yeah, it skews the data, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think there was a program a while ago on BBC that Amelia Fox did. I don't know if you watched it, about the Ripper. And in that, they talked a lot about Martha, and they thought that she was like, from putting all the data into like modern day profiling and stuff, they thought she was a Ripper victim. And it does make sense to me, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, the from one extreme to the other, from going from the first victim to what we assume is the last victim, Mary Kelly, was just, you wouldn't, I mean, looking at the cases, you wouldn't have thought that was the same killer, because he suddenly had privacy and time on his hands, and he went to town, didn't he? I mean, the photos from that crime scene are pretty horrific.
Really horrific.
The ones that just stay with you, you know?
Yeah, really horrific. And everything about Mary Jane Kelly's murder is quite different, really, isn't it? I think the extreme violence of it. I mean, obviously they're all really extremely violent, but hers is even more so, like you say. Plus the location. It feels like, and in my book, it happens this way, that she let him in, like, she knew him and she let him in and
trusted him.
Yeah, and it just feels a bit different, and it feels much more premeditated. Like, I'm going to go and kill Mary Jane Kelly rather than I'm just going to go out and see who I come across and kill them. It feels more personal, maybe, or targeted. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's just horrific. And again, with the darkness, because he burnt all her clothes, in that they were found like it partly burnt in the grate, and that's to do with him having light so that he could see what he was doing, which is grim. I know, yeah.
But also getting rid of evidence as well, I would presume. So perhaps he did something to the clothes, or they perhaps,
although I don't think they would have
known about that by then, maybe.
No. So
so just to stoke the fire.
Yeah, just to
their clothes.
Yeah, so you could see.
Oh goodness.
Really nasty.
What about then, okay, my ripperologists? That's what I'm going to call it. That's a real thing, isn't it, being a ripperologist?
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's quite odd.
What about, and this is only because I'm looking at a website and just calling out things. So what about Rose Mylett, who was murdered on the 20th of December in 1888? Is she potentially, have you heard of Rose? She
was after then Mary Kelly, wasn't
she? After, yeah. So
yeah.
She was
that's why I've suddenly got, is she, we're talking about the first and the last.
Ah.
Is she potentially one of his victims? Again, seen in the company of two men. It's two men. I mean, either this website has got a particular thing about it being two men, or about that there were two. But her body is found in no foul play, or foul play not suspected. So then why are you suggesting, or the post-mortem disagrees with the police? I will have to, I will credit this website in the show notes. I just thank you very much for your ripperology work.
I suspect anything done by Jack the Ripper would be quite obviously foul play to the naked eye.
Yeah, yes.
He doesn't mess around, did he? So I think that, or they didn't mess around.
Yeah, I agree.
I kind of
So it's if the
suspect it's
paper
two
tried to.
people.
Do you? That's
I do,
interesting.
because of the double event that happened, because he seemed to like almost teleport to a new place and then kill another woman almost at the same time. So to me, it's like, that there was two of them. And also bearing in mind that they're killing, this woman, whichever woman you want to talk about, is dying, and they're going to start screaming, aren't they? I mean, they cut the throat to begin with to
Well,
stop that,
they cut the throat. Yeah,
but
Martha's
they'd
throat
have to
wasn't
hold
slit.
them down to do that.
Yeah, I do think it's really awful that he learned. It was like he was learning from each
Yeah.
murder.
Well,
So
they do, don't they? They evolve
yeah,
throughout the murders and perhaps like,
so learning to slit the throats to stop them screaming. I don't know. Like
but
it's
to do that, they'd have to be like controlling do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and two people would be more likely to do that on an
mm,
open space, to
yeah.
me
That's a good
anyway.
point. That is a good point. That's interesting. I actually don't think ripperologists would disagree with me here. I don't think that Liz, who was the first murder on the double event night, I don't think she was a
No,
Ripper
I
victim.
don't either. That was my thing. I think
Ah,
she was killed by her boyfriend. Because I mean,
yes,
what a great
yes,
way of getting rid of your partner. Oh, the Ripper did
yes.
it. Copycat.
And he was really abusive. And
Yeah.
she was she is really interesting. I think you could write a whole novel just on her because she had this amazing life. I don't know what you
Is
know
this
about
is
her.
this Long Liz? Did she also
Long
have a
Liz.
There's Elizabeth Stride, Elizabeth
Elizabeth
or
Stride,
Long
yeah.
Liz.
Long Liz.
It says on
She
here she also had a nickname.
didn't know she had a nickname. She was Swedish and she had lived in um, Sweden and where she'd been a prostitute, and then she'd come over here to work as a maid, and she'd like run a coffee house, and she'd done all these different things. But she was, I think, a bit of a con artist and a bit of a like a scammer. She There was about 10 years before the Jack the Ripper murders, there was a big disaster on the Thames. There was a pleasure boat cruiser called the Princess Alice, where people would like pay and go and spend the whole day like cruising up and down the Thames and having a lovely time. And there was bands and dancing and food and stuff. And the Princess Alice sank on the Thames, and 650 people died. It was really shocking at the time. And after it had sunk, they did like a compensation scheme for the people that had lost loved ones on the boat. And Liz said that she had lost her husband and several of her 6 children, or 6 of her 9 children, something like that, in this disaster. But actually, although she was married, her husband was fine. He was alive and kicking. And she'd never had children. She'd had a stillborn baby when she was in Sweden, and that was the only baby she'd had. So she just made it up and she claimed this compensation, which I think is
Daring.
sorry,
Yeah.
not allowed
That's
to
okay.
swear.
You cut out then anyway. It was
Oh,
fine.
that's good. Pretty nasty. It was pretty nasty. And also there's like another story which is a little bit confusing, but I think she like befriended this woman, an elderly woman who was partially sighted, whose sister had gone missing several years before and who happened to be called Elizabeth. And Liz like befriended her and said, "Oh, it's me. I am your
Oh no.
missing sister," and basically like scammed this woman into thinking that she was her long lost sister and like took money or whatever from her. She did all sorts of things. She would like borrow babies from people and take them and say, "Oh, this is my baby and I need money." Like, I don't think she was she's like really interesting. And then by the time she died, she was like in this really abusive relationship, and she also had really advanced syphilis. So I think like it gives you sort of dementia symptoms when it's that advanced, and so I think she would have been like really confused and not necessarily knowing always where she was or what was happening, or like having memory loss. And so yeah, I think that she was just maybe, I don't know, maybe her boyfriend had
Well, it's,
got
like I
carried
said,
away.
it's a great excuse, isn't it? And not like
Yeah,
anyone's really
absolutely.
looking, to be fair. So
No, nobody
why
would care.
not?
And she didn't have the injuries that the other victims have. So
Do you know, I'd never heard of the Princess Alice. It makes me wonder if it was so near the time, whether that was something to do with Jack the Ripper. You know, like he was killing off people that had something to do with the Princess Alice disaster.
Oh my God, maybe he like lost his wife and child and then was seeking revenge.
Yeah, but how many uteruses do you need to
True.
to get your revenge? I mean, I'm not sure I could be behind his his actions there,
maybe
but
not.
maybe there's some sort of link.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's quite an interesting. Like, I can't really imagine a boat on the Thames that holds more than 650 people. I sort of picture those like Uber.
And also, how did they all drown in the Thames? Because it's like it's not that big. You could swim to the other side, surely.
Well, I think it's the tides, isn't it, in the Thames, the currents, because I think they always say you can't swim in the Thames.
Maybe that's where all the torsos came from.
Maybe.
Nobody just added that up.
Yeah, maybe they've just forgotten those ones. Oh, it's a bit like the Marchioness, I guess, but just a lot more people.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I just know that she was not on there and did not lose her husband.
So we've talked about the women of Whitechapel, but we're going to keep Harriet another week with Down the Rabbit Hole, and we're going to talk to her about the suspect list, as we've discussed many a time. So we have a lot to talk about, don't we, Lise?
Yes. Well, or I just get to watch you two probably go head to head if you've got different ideas of who your top suspect is. So I just get to enjoy the show.
So don't worry, listeners and viewers, we will make Harriet nice and comfortable down the Red Rabbit Hole. And you can follow the Red Rabbit yourself down many a rabbit hole through our different social media channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, as you're watching here, as I'm only just realizing.
Just had a bit of a meta moment there, Nick. Whoa!
I know, I can never do the end right.
No, we're not very good at it, are we?
We're not very.
But I offer nothing. I just sit here and watch you struggle with it. So it's not like I mean, such a good friend I am.
I'm limping through it. So yes. So we will. And we'll have some links to Harriet's book in the show notes as well. So if you want to buy Women in the Shadows and learn how the women of Whitechapel took out Jack the Ripper, then Harriet's your gal. So we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.